It's kind of weird because Jake Paul is extremely bigger than Tank. And I mean, but with it being a exhibition, it makes sense.
This. First of all, if you're a boxer and you're not taking note or notice of what Jake Paul is doing, you're worried about criticizing his boxing skills, then you're the fool.
Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big.
As the showdown between YouTuber-turned-boxer Jake Paul and pound-for-pound contender Gervonta Tank Davis approaches, boxing legends are already placing their bets. Davis brings thunderous knockout power, precise speed, and experience fighting elite opponents. Meanwhile, Paul carries the weight of public expectations and the challenge of facing a true boxing superstar. Many icons predict Davis will dominate with his skill and agility, but others believe Paul's height, reach, and knack for upsetting odds could result in a shocking upset of the year.
You know what? Fair play. If he does go out and fight Anthony Joshua, which I wouldn't advise because that would be extremely dangerous, then fair play if he was to do that. And all the critics and people like myself would have to shut the hell up because I always said he's looking for fights that were manufactured, looking for fights that were predetermined. And by that, I don't mean fake fights. I don't mean fixed fights. I mean fights where the odds are so stacked in his favor that, of course, he's going to win. And of course, we see this. The latest match that's going to go down November 14th at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. Jake Paul is taking on, you've seen it by now, Gervonta Tank Davis. A man that is a lightweight in boxing. Now, lightweight in MMA is 155 pounds. Lightweight in boxing, 135 pounds. Jake Paul, I think when he weighed in for Mike Tyson, was 227 pounds.
Official weight, 227.2 pounds.
That is, if I'm not mistaken, a 92-pound weight difference. Almost a 100-pound weight difference. It's insane. Let's say he comes in at 200 pounds. It's still a 65-pound weight advantage, which is absolutely ridiculous. How can you be out there claiming to want to fight the best people on the planet and then going out there and taking on a guy that is maybe 92 pounds heavier, that is at least 65 pounds heavier than you? That is called one thing. That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, oh, I just beat the man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing?
The fight location has officially changed, adding a new twist to the event. Instead of Atlanta, Jake Paul will now face Gervonta Davis on November 14th at the Casa Center in Miami. MVP tweeted, "The war is no longer in Atlanta. Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis are taking over MSME. Same date, same fight, new city." Scheduled to be streamed globally on Netflix, the event is officially described as an exhibition, sparking debate over the dramatic size disparity, Paul weighing around 199 pounds in his last fight at cruiserweight, while Davis has fought at approximately 135 pounds. Due to this difference, Davis's WBA lightweight title will not be on the line.
Boxing fans are losing their minds over this Jake Paul versus Tank Davis fight. And honestly, can you blame them? Why would Tank agree to this? I mean, look at the graphic. Jake is 6'1", 199 pounds with a 6'4" wingspan. Tank, 5'5", 133 pounds, a 5'7" wingspan. Tank fighting me would be a fairer matchup. We're basically the same size. And you wonder why fans think Jake's fights are rigged? Because every time we see some nonsense like this, it feels like WWE with boxing gloves. Here's the kicker though. Jake threatened to sue anyone who calls his fights rigged. Yeah, you know, the same guy who preaches freedom of speech now wants to ban opinions. After that clown show with Mike Tyson that left everyone scratching their heads. Maybe, and I'm just throwing it out there, if your own management company wasn't promoting and sponsoring your fights, fans might actually believe what they're watching. Until then, don't be mad that people are skeptical. Be mad that your boxing career looks more like a scripted reality TV show.
Details of the fight remain somewhat unclear. Contract weight, rounds, and official rules have yet to be fully disclosed. Many believe this matchup is more about entertainment and crossover appeal than a traditional title bout. Critics question the fairness, safety, and integrity of boxing's weight class system in this context, fueling ongoing debate about whether this is a genuine competition or just a spectacle designed for mass entertainment.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pounds. Tank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. Skills versus your skill, of which I am an abundance of, you have none of. Tank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum-dum.
Terence Crawford has expressed skepticism about the Paul versus Davis fight, primarily due to the obvious size mismatch. He views it as more of a spectacle than a true competition, likening it to a sparring session dressed up as a fight. While acknowledging Davis's skill and explosiveness, Crawford emphasizes that the significant weight difference undermines the fight's legitimacy as a contest between equals. He warns that if Paul's larger frame gives him an advantage, a clean punch could turn the tide quickly, but overall, Crawford questions whether the fight adheres to professional standards.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over with.
Undefeated and highly regarded, Shakur Stevenson sees the Paul Davis matchup as an unfair test, particularly for Davis, given Paul's size advantage. Nevertheless, Stevenson believes Davis's experience, technical skill, and ring intelligence would enable him to dominate the fight comfortably. He expects Davis to utilize movement, precision, and fundamentals rather than relying on brute power. While criticizing the spectacle and calling it disrespectful to boxing, Stevenson remains confident that Davis's boxing ability far exceeds Paul's.
Case here, when you've got what is like a 70-pound difference between these two guys.
I mean, size will play some part of the fight, but if I'm thinking like I'm Tank, I'm probably just gonna go out there and try to outbox him and use my knowledge and IQ against him. So I can see Tank just outboxing him and making it real easy.
Is there any way any realistic or legitimate way in your mind you could see Jake Paul winning a fight against Tank?
No.
No way.
Nope.
Not a lot of people have talked about Jake and said he's got good power. Not even and I get anything could technically happen, but you don't even see a realistic shot where he could land one big punch, and Tank being so much smaller, he just can't handle the power.
Nah, not at all. I think Tank is he's been boxing his whole life. He's been boxing since a kid, so I doubt like that's gonna be an issue or problem. I think Jake is good for where he's at, but I think it's just levels.
What do you think about the rumors that Tank and Jake fight?
Man, Tank disrespectful to the sport if he choose that over fighting with me. I'm the best fighter in the sport. I've been telling him that, and he called cap on it. So if you gonna call cap and say I'm not who I say I am, come prove it. I think it's dangerous for him to go back in there and fight Lamont. I think Lamont is a hell of a fighter. I can see that going left. So he better be on his A game.
Daniel Cormier offers a nuanced perspective on this fight. He credits Jake Paul for daring to challenge a fighter of Davis's caliber, recognizing the risks involved. However, he criticizes the clear mismatch due to the weight difference, stressing that Davis's skill and experience make him the favorite. Cormier reflects on what each fighter stands to lose. Paul's credibility could be damaged by a loss, while Davis risks reputation if he underestimates a much larger opponent. While not predicting a winner, Cormier leans toward Davis based on boxing merit, acknowledging the unpredictable nature of the bout.
I swear to God, I was on a plane coming home from Las Vegas. When Luis told me Gervonta Davis is fighting Jake Paul, I said, get the bleep out of here. I said, you're a bleep liar. Jake Paul is fighting Gervonta Tank Davis. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. Gervonta Davis is that much better than Jake Paul at boxing. But Gervonta Davis in his last fight weighed 133.8 pounds. And I'm not over here in the business of just crapping on Jake Paul. I am much more respectful of what he's starting to build as a professional boxer. You're fighting a guy that's better than you. He's just much smaller. But that guy, because he's better than you, what if he wins? Everything Jake Paul has done is wiped completely out. Gervonta Davis loses to Jake Paul. Obviously, it's going to hurt who Gervonta Davis is. But he lost to a guy that's going to be upwards of 70 pounds bigger than him when he steps into the boxing ring. But I will tell you this right now, without a shadow of a doubt. I will watch this. Tank Davis is 30-0-1. You want to talk about Jake Paul fighting a real boxer? That's a real boxer. You can't make this stuff up, man. It's true. They're fighting.
Teofimo Lopez describes the Paul vs. Davis fight less as a competition for titles and more as a spectacle driven by profit and entertainment. He notes that, although it may lack traditional prestige, the event offers enormous paydays and mainstream buzz. Lopez believes this type of fight can still serve boxing by attracting new audiences, generating excitement, and showcasing personalities, drama, and showmanship, reminding fans of boxing's big, entertaining side.
And I'm actually very happy for Gervonta and Jake. I really am, man. It's good for the sport in some way, you know?
So a heavyweight versus a lightweight.
Yeah.
You got a fly hit me, yeah. A heavyweight versus a lightweight. How's this going to work?
Hey, they make it work. It's an exhibition for a reason. So, you know, they know what they're doing. And, you know, shout out to Netflix and shout out to both of them, honestly. Like I said, I think a lot of people in the boxing world are kind of upset. I could care less. I think they're going to go out there and make their money. It falls on the number 8 for a reason. They're going to make a lot of money.
Have you got a prediction for that fight?
My prediction? A show. A show.
Well, clearly it's a show, but when you've got a lot of people underestimating Jake Paul once again, but when you've got a heavyweight boxer who knows how to throw punches and knows the basics against a lightweight, it's quite a difference. I mean, have you sparred heavyweights before?
Yeah.
A competitive sparring in the ring?
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not the same, not at all. Definitely got to move. I've actually played around a few times, went through between their legs just to duck around. But yeah, because they're taller, you know. But I think for that competition, that fight, it reminds me a lot like The Big Show, and Floyd Mayweather when they fought in WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And will that end the same way?
Possibly. Maybe some brass knuckles in there too.
Can you see Jake Paul knocking out Gervonta Davis?
It's boxing, man. And if it's a show like this, anything goes, anything happens. You know, we expected Mike Tyson to do something, didn't go out that way. Jake Paul's training very hard, so, you know, kudos to both guys. I'm not going to critique them.
I think Davis is more to lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. You know, Davis, you know, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? You know, there's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks...
The answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah. But if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion in multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, you know, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside as boxers, me and, you know, Chris LJ, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience. So we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you're probably going down if you're a small guy, if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing. And I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot that he still hasn't earned, mind you?